My name is Lin Hao. I am at the age of 30. I was originally a motor armored driver from the neighborhood team of the International Alliance. To be honest, I was once a trump card on the battlefield, and I was driving the Thunder armor and slamming the desert of the Iron Curtain Star, killing many battle units of the alien clan. But to be honest, those days had passed long ago. A mission error 3 years ago, my left leg was blown up by explosion fragments. Although I was equipped with mechanical limbs, I could never go back to drive the pipes. The Alliance gave me a penny of retirement money, and then threw me on this Iron Curtain Star that did not shit, and gave me a self-reliant Iron Curtain Star. You will know that it is not a good place to go by listening to the name of this place. The entire planet is a military fortress and resource development base, full of red sand and broken mines. The sky is always gray and cannot be seen in a sun like it. The Alliance has built a huge military grid warehouse here, which is said to be the core base of the development of the machine armor, and contains many high-tech things. However, retired veterans like me usually can't touch the edge of the Nagar, so they can only drink cheap synthetic wine in the broken bar outside the base and listen to the bragging of those active boys. That night, I sat in the corner of the bar as usual, with half a glass of drinks in front of me, and an old hard currency in my hand. This hard currency is the lucky charm of Thunder. I carried it every time I took the mission that year, and now I can only think about it. There was noise in the bar, and a group of young drivers were talking about their recent missions, saying that an unusual energy fluctuation was detected near the Nagar, which made the high-level tightness so that they sent several teams to patrol. I heard that there was no interest in this kind of news. There were so many people on the iron screen. It was probably because of who was drunk too much. Just as they were about to leave, the door of the bar was suddenly pushed open and a woman in an Alliance uniform walked in. She is not tall, has short hair, wears an old-fashioned digital lens, and looks like a literary staff member, without any threat. But when her eyes swept over the bar, there was a kind of indescribable spice that she directly locked me. My heart skipped a beat. I lowered my head and took a sip of wine. Lao Guang kept watching her. She walked straight towards me, sat down opposite me, and the first sentence she spoke almost sprayed the wine. Lin Hao, I know who you are, and what you fucked back then. I need your help. I was stunned for a moment, put down my wine glass, and looked at her with my eyes. Miss, I don't know you, and I'm not interested in helping you. You're looking for a wrong person. She ignored my indifference and took out a small data disk from her pocket and pushed it lightly in front of me. My name is Aaron, from the Gnaku Interior Department. I know you have retired, but I also know that you are still one of the people who know the best about the armor on the Iron Screen Star. There are some things here that may make you change your mind. I didn't move that piece of data, just sneered. The staff at Gnaku? Then are you looking for me? I'm a waste now and can't even touch the armor. You should go find those active kids. Erin's expression didn't change, her voice was lowered, because this matter has something to do with the secret in Nagar, and you are the only person I can trust. Lin Hao, your mission was misunderstood that year, not an accident, but someone deliberately framed you. If you want to know the truth, just look at what's in this plate. This was like a heavy punch hitting my heart. During the misunderstanding of the mission that year, I always felt that I was not in a match. The communication between teammates suddenly broke down and the navigation system also lost its power, which led to me directly hitting the ambush circle of the zombies. But the report said that my operation was a mistake and kicked me out of the team. I gritted my teeth, picked up the data plate, and inserted it into the end of my wrist. A bunch of encrypted files popped up on the screen, and a record sound. The recording was the sound of a man, low and cold. Lin Hao is too difficult to control, and staying is a danger. In that mission, everything was arranged to ensure that he couldn't come out. If the energy was good, it would be best if he died. If he didn't die, he had to let him get out of the team at all. After hearing this, my hands were shaking. I haven't heard the sound, but the content stabbed into my heart like a knife. Aaron looked at my reaction and said lightly, "This is the internal communication from Gnaku High Level," what Carlos said to his subordinates. "You have been framed, Lin Hao, and this is just the tip of their iceberg. I took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in my heart, and asked her, "What do you want to fuck me? I'll give me this to see, and I'll just let me take revenge, right?" Aaron pointed out, "I need you to help me dive into the Nagar and confirm the real purpose of a technology. They are developing an energy shield that can make the armor almost invincible, but this technology has problems, a very big problem. I can't investigate it in depth, and you have experience and have reasons to fight them." My eyebrows were straight when I heard it. Energy shield? I have heard of this thing, and it is reported that it is the secret project of Nagar, which can make the armor resist the ion cannons of the zombies with no hair. But what does this thing have to do with ordinary soldiers? Not to mention diving into the Nagar, where the defenses are like iron barrels, and even the flies cannot fly. I slammed my head. Are you crazy? Got into the Nagar? That's asking for death. I can't help you. Erin did not retreat, but her eyes became more stable. Lin Hao, I know this is very dangerous, but I have data on internal maps and security loopholes, and someone can help us crack the system. As long as you wish, I guarantee that I can enter. Moreover, this is not only for me, but also for yourself. You don't want to know what those who harmed you that year were hiding in the Nagar? I was silent. It is fake to say that you are not interested. Things that happened back then have always been a thorn in my heart. Now I have the opportunity to dig out the truth and give those bastards a little color. It is indeed quite attractive. But if you are in the Nagar, you will be so risky that you may have to take your life. I looked down at the hard currency in my hand, and the heavens and man in my brain were fighting each other. Finally, I gritted my teeth and pointed, "Okay, I'll fuck you. But if I find that I'm not in a match in the middle, I'll quit at any time." Aaron smiled softly, "Don't worry, I won't let you die in vain. Tomorrow night, someone will take us in the scrap pit outside the base. His name is Vic, and he is a hacker who can help us get the security system of the Nagar." The next day, I felt like I had a stone in my heart, and I always felt that this was not that simple. But since I agreed, I don't plan to repent. At night, I put on my old battle suit, brought a few useful accessories, sneaked out of my residence and touched the waste mine. The night on the Iron Curtain is so cold that the sand is blown to the face, shaved like a knife, making life hurt. When I reached the agreed location, my hands were already numb. At the entrance of the mine, a man who was as thin as a bamboo pole was leaning against the broken miner, holding a modified stool in his hand, and the light from the screen made his face turn blue. He saw me coming and grinned, "You are Lin Hao? It looks even more rough than the news." "I am Vic, technical support, Irene should mention me to you." I clicked the head and didn't say much. "Are the things ready?" "This place is not a place for chatting." Vic took off his shoulders and took out a bunch of gadgets from his backpack, including miniature interferers, signal transmitters, and a set of disruptive tools. He sorted out and said, "I have figured out the external security system of Nagar. The inside is a little numb, but with Aaron's data, it should be possible. But I have to remind you that the security in that place is not a vegetarian, and there is also an automatic defense fort. Once it is discovered, we have no place to run." I snorted coldly, "If you are discovered, you can't run away. Do you understand? So you'd better guarantee that your skills are reliable." Vic smiled and said nothing more. Not long after, Erin arrived, holding a tablet in her hand, showing the map of the Nagar and the security patrol route. She briefly explained the plan. We dived from the old passage below the mine, walked past the outer radar network, and went directly to the logistics area of the Nagar. Vic is responsible for breaking the door ban, and Irene and I are responsible for the possible precautions. Everything sounded quite smoothly, but it was more surprising than I thought. The old passage is full of scrap pipes and broken equipment, and the air is filled with the smell of metal rot. Occasionally, you can hear the low sound of the far-off zombie, which makes people's skin numb. 3 of us touched the walls, and Vic scanned the signal at the end in front. Aaron was responsible for observing the map. I held the electromagnetic dagger in my hand and prepared for the sudden situation at any time. After walking for about half an hour, I finally arrived at the entrance, and in front of me was a thick alloy door with the Alliance's logo engraved on it. Vic squatted down and began to crack the door band at the end. A bunch of codes popped up on the screen, flying quickly rolled. I stood beside me, my heart beating like a drumbeat, and I always felt that there would be a warning in the next second. "It's done!" Vic shouted in a low voice, and the door slid open slowly. Behind the door was a dim corridor, with no one in the empty space, only low mechanical movements were heard far away. I was about to relax my breath, and Irene suddenly grabbed me and said in a low voice, "Wait, there is something wrong with the energy reading. Here, there is something moving, and the waves are very strong." I browed, "What?" She didn't answer, but just pointed to the data on the tablet. An unusual energy curve is displayed on the screen, with a very high wave frequency, as if some high-power device is being started. Vic also came over and took a look, and his face became a little difficult to see. "This wave is not an ordinary motor armor engine, nor a weapon system." My heart was shocked, and I had flashed what Irene said before. "Energy shield, the secret technology of Gnaku. Can't we bump into this thing as soon as we come in?" I gritted my teeth and said in a low voice, "No matter what it is not the time to retreat. Go in and take a look and figure out the situation before talking about it." We walked along the corridor carefully, and the air became more and more stressed, as if there was an invisible pressure covering us. The corridor is as big as a laboratory, with an unprecedented armor parked inside, all black and covered with a layer of blue light that seems to be present. The light flowed like water waves, giving people a strange feeling. Aaron exclaimed in a low voice, "This is the prototype of the energy shield." I didn't have time to say anything, but the other end of the laboratory suddenly came to my feet and several fully equipped guards walked in, and the weapons in my hand were loaded. The guy in charge glanced at us and said coldly, "Who are you? How did you come in?" My heart sank, knowing that it was so irritating. Vic quickly hid aside, and Aaron tried to explain it, but the other party didn't listen at all, so he prepared to fire when he lifted his weapon. I gritted my teeth and growled, "Do not." I immediately rushed towards the nearest cover, and pulled out the electromagnetic dagger to prepare for counterattack. The moment the gun sounded, there was only one thought in my brain: this time, I really had a big time. But at the same time, the light of the black armor suddenly lit up, as if it was responding to something, and the air in the experiment room became heavier in an instant. I don't think this thing might be just a defense system, it seems to have its own ideas. The gun sounded in the experiment room, and the slug hit the metal wall, sparking 4 times. I hid behind a test equipment, my heart beat as if I was about to explode, and I was flying in my brain and thinking about how to remove myself. Aaron and Vic also looked for cover, and Aaron shouted to me in a low voice, "Lin Hao, we have to find a way to turn off their communication, otherwise once the reinforcements come, we will be finished." I bit my teeth and clicked the head. The few guards in training on the opposite side were so well-deserved that we couldn't lift our heads at all. Their equipment is obviously the elite team of Nagar, and they also have the Alliance's latest combat communications. As long as they issue a warning, it will be estimated that the guards of the entire base will be rushed in less than 5 minutes. I glanced at Vic, who was slid behind a console, and the screen in his hand was finally on, and he should be trying to darken the system. "Vic, can communication interference be handled?" I asked in a low voice, and looked at the fire point opposite. Those guards are adjusting their positions and trying to encircle us. "Give me a minute." Vic didn't raise his head, and his fingers quickly hit the end. Their communication encryption level is not low, but I can implant a circular interference signal so that they can't contact the outside at any time. "A minute? We may not be able to hold it for 30 seconds. I gritted my teeth and said, but there was no other way, so I could only hold it hard. Although the electromagnetic dagger in your hand is powerful, it can be used to guard the full armor, and it will not be enough to see it. I glanced around. The experiment room was filled with various equipment and pipes, and I might be able to find something as a weapon. At this moment, the blue light around the black armor suddenly flashed again, and a low buzzing sound came from the air, as if something had been activated. Shua on the opposite side also noticed this static. The guy in charge pointed his eyebrows and said to his companion in a low voice, "What's going on? The shield prototype shouldn't react." While they were distracted, I grabbed a metal toolbox next to me and threw it at them hard. The box rolled in the air, making a harsh sound, which successfully attracted their attention. I growled, "Run!" Then I covered my body and rushed out, and rushed towards the nearest guard. The guy reacted quickly, lifted his gun and looked at me, but I was faster than him. When I flashed my side, the electromagnetic dagger directly drew his arm, and the weapon fell to the ground with a bang. He hummed in pain, and pulled out the other hand and gun with his hand, but I didn't give him a chance, so I kicked him in the knee and put him down. At the same time, Erin also ran out from the other side, and got a stick in her hand and stabbed it directly at the back of the other guard. The guy twitched and fell down, and he solved 2 of them in a short time. But the remaining 3 guards had returned to their senses, and the firepower was pressing on my shoulder and flying over, almost knocking me down. I rushed to the side, hid behind a bunch of equipment, and shouted panting, "Vic, you mother, hurry up. It's done." Vic finally raised his head and grinned. "The communication interference starts. They are now just a group of blind people who can't call anyone." This made me feel a little relaxed, but the situation in front of me was still not much better. The rest of the conservatives began to change their strategies, no longer force them, but spread out, and tried to encircle us from different directions. My heart sank, and I knew that if we dragged on, we would definitely have to finish it. His eyes swept through the experiment room and suddenly landed on the black armor. The blue light was still flowing slowly, as if waiting for something. "Irene, can that thing be used?" I pointed to the armor and asked her in a low voice. She was stunned for a moment and shook her head. "I don't know. This is the prototype of the energy shield. In theory, only a specific driver can start, and it requires a core code. We don't have that at all. I can't care so much." I gritted my teeth. "Vic, can I hack into its system and try to start it? Even if it's just a shield, it can still give us some time." Vic wiped his sweat and hesitated for a moment, but he still pointed. "I'll try it, but don't have too much hope. The firewall of this thing may be harder than the main system of the NAR." He quickly climbed to a console beside the armor and connected to the terminal to start the operation. Erin and I continued to deal with Shuai and tried to delay time. The gun sounded more and more intense, and I felt a pain in my left shoulder. It should be because the quilt was damaged, and the heat and blood flowed down my arms, making it sticky. But I didn't have time to care about these things, so I could only grit my teeth and squeeze. Suddenly, the light in the experiment room flashed, and the light around the armor suddenly lit up, like a layer of blue film that instantly spread out, covering us and Shua. When the Zifu hit the light, it was directly blown out, making a ding-ding sound, as if it was hit on a steel plate. Shua was stunned, and I was stunned, too. "This thing, can it really be used? Damn, I'm really a genius." Vic shouted excitedly. "I haven't completely cracked its system, but activated the basic defense module. This shield can be swept at least 5 minutes, so we have to run now." "Running, fart!" I yelled, and while Showa was still stunned, he rushed over directly, and pointed the dagger straight into one of the people's neck. He didn't react at all, and I just let him down. Erin also seized the opportunity, and the electric rod hit again, solving the other one. The last guard was not good, so I turned around and wanted to run away, but I didn't give him a chance. I pressed him to the ground, punched him hard, and directly hit him. The experiment room finally calmed down, leaving only 3 of us gasping for breath. The blue light is still flowing slowly, like protecting us, but I also know that this may close at any time. I turned to look at Vic. "You just said, 5 minutes?" He pointed the head and his face was a little white. "Yes, the system shows that the energy storage is not sufficient, and the power startup can only last for so long. And I found that this shield is not only for protection, but there seems to be another module inside, and the data is encrypted, so I can't unlock it." Erin walked over to check the data on the console, and her voice was low. "This is not right. The original intention of the energy shield was to protect the armor and the driver, but these data looked like some kind of neural connection module. Can they want to use this to control the driver? I heard a flash in my heart, and I had flashed the words she had said before in my brain. The secret project that the military high-level army has done in Nagar is not just to create enemy-free armor, but to turn the soldiers into puppets that listen to them? I clenched my teeth and said in a low voice, whatever it is, it's not the time to study. We have to get these data and then tighten the hell out of this place. Vic quickly downloaded some data from the end, and Aaron took out a piece of storage device and backed up the key files on the console. At this moment, a sudden emergence of rapid pace and a low voice came from outside the experiment room. The experiment area is abnormal. I immediately block all channels and don't worry if I find suspicious targets. My heart sank, knowing that the interference signal that had just been cracked and reinforcements came. The blue light begins to flash, and the energy is obviously almost exhausted. I gritted my teeth and said to them, "Did you get the data? If you get it, run away, don't be too slow. It's almost done." Vic unplugged the end, and Aaron also put away the storage device. The three of us quickly ran towards the emergency passage on the other side of the laboratory room. After a few steps, the light of the shield behind us disappeared completely. At the same time, a dense gun sounded, and the spider hit the entrance of the passage, sparking 4 times. The light in the passage was dim and the air was full of metal and oil. We ran all the way, and our feet were rumbling in the narrow space. Vic ran out of breath and ran. "Why is this ghost place so big? We won't run into a dead end, right? Close your mouth and run away." I shouted, and there was only one thought left in my brain: you can't be caught. The sound of the footsteps behind him was getting closer and closer, and there was also the sound of the unmanned buzzing sound. It was obvious that they used the tracking equipment. My heart is in a dark mood, and this helping bastard really looks down on us. After running for about 10 minutes, the passage finally reached its head, and there was a half-open repair door in front of me. I could hear the sound after the door, which should lead to the outside of Nagar. I was about to push the door when I suddenly grabbed me and said in a low voice, "Wait, there may be an ambush outside. We have to make sure we are safe first." I clicked the head and looked through the doorman. Outside the door is a deserted red sandy land, far away is the gray sky unique to the Iron Curtain star. There are several military floating cars parked nearby, and there are also several soldiers in full armed clothes standing next to it, as if they are on standby. I gritted my teeth and said in a low voice, "Damn, there is indeed an ambush. It is definitely not possible to force it. We have to find a way to go." Vic gasped and wiped his sweat. "I can try to blackmail their car systems, create some confusion and attract their attention. But you have to give me some time." "How long?" I asked. 2 minutes, aren't it enough?" He grinned, and although his face turned pale, there was still the confidence in his eyes. "Okay, it's only 2 minutes." I clicked and turned to Aaron. "Please be warned with me, don't let anyone touch this." Aaron clicked her head and held the electric rod in her hand tightly. We squatted beside the door, ready to face the sudden situation at any time. The sound of my feet behind me was getting closer and closer, and my heart was beating like a drumbeat, and I felt like I would be kicked off the next second. Vic's fingers were quickly knocking on the end, and the code on the screen was so dazzling. "It's done," he shouted in a low voice, and at the same time, the floating car outside the door suddenly emitted a harsh warning sound, and the lights were flashing, as if the system was out of control. The soldiers were stunned for a moment, ran towards the car, and tried to figure out the situation. "Just now, go!" I growled, pushed the door open, and quickly rushed out, running towards the sand in the opposite direction. The sand of the Iron Curtain star was blown to the face, shaving like a knife to make life hurt, but we couldn't understand these at all, so we could only bury our heads and run wildly. The soldiers behind us soon discovered us. The police sounded over the night sky, and the guns rose again. Zeebo flew over the ground, shaking up a piece of sand. After running about a few hundred meters, we finally entered a deserted mine area, which was full of broken equipment and collapsed pits, which could barely provide some cover. I gasped and turned around and looked at the soldiers from far away. However, the speed was obviously slowing down, so I should have been dragged by the terrain. We're safe at the moment. Erin leaned against a rock, her face turned pale and her voice was shaking. But they won't give up, and they will definitely ask more people to search. I clicked my head, and I was still thinking about the scene in the laboratory just now. The black armor, the blue light, and the neural connection module that Erin said, all of this felt an indescribable strangeness. I asked her in a low voice, "Is the control driver you just said true?" She was silent for a moment and pointed, "I'm not 100% sure, but the data shows that some kind of conscious interference module is embedded in the energy shield system. If activated, it may affect the driver's decisions, or even, completely control their minds." I felt cold in my heart, and my brain was flashing through the scene of the misunderstanding of my mission that year. If this technology can really control people, then my mistake that year might have been moved by someone. I clenched my teeth and said in a low voice, "You can't just forget about this. We have to find someone who can explain it all and dig out the truth." Erin pointed out, "I know someone, maybe, can help us. His name is Professor Juan, who participated in the development of the energy shield that year, and later chose to retreat because of some plans against the army. He should know the entire secret of this technology." "Professor Juan?" I browned. "Is this person relying on me? Where can I find him?" "He has a secret hiding spot in the desert of the Iron Curtain Star," Erin said, pulling out a small map chip from his pocket and sending it to me. "This is his approximate location, but how to find it depends on ourselves. He doesn't trust anyone, and it may be a bit difficult to get close to him." I connected the chip and calculated the next plan in my brain. The desert of Iron Curtain Star is not a good place. It is full of sandstorms and worm tribes. Ordinary people go in and die. But if Professor Juan can really help us figure out the secret of the energy shield, then this risk is worth it. "Okay, then go find him." I gritted my teeth, "But we have to find a place to hide first, and the army will definitely not let us go." Vic grinned and shook the end of his hand. "Don't worry, I know a few lost mines, and the army's radar can't escape that. Let's go there first and take a break, then look at the data that has just been downloaded, and maybe you can find a trace." The three of us looked at each other. Although we were as tired as dogs, we all had a sense of dissatisfaction in our eyes. The night wind of the Iron Curtain Star became colder and colder, and the sand was swaying low, as if warning us about the unbearable road ahead. But I know that this is just beginning, the secrets in the Nagar, Carlos's traits, and the strange energy shield. These things, one day, I will tear them open with my hands. We turned around and walked towards the mine. The sound of guns and warnings behind us gradually went away, but the pressure in our hearts did not decrease at all. Under the night, the desert of the Iron Curtain Star is like a sleeping giant beast, which may open its bloody mouth at any time and swallow us. But I held the electromagnetic dagger in my hand tightly and said to myself in a low voice, "Come on, I'm not ready to recognize it yet." The desert night of the Iron Curtain Star was as cold as a knife, and the wind blew the sand on the face. The three of us were in a deserted mine, barely avoiding the first wave of searches from the army. The mine was pitch black, and only the end screen in Vic's hand emitted a faint light, which made our faces look like ghosts. I leaned against the cold stone wall, and the wound on my left shoulder was still hurting. The blood had stopped, but every time I moved, it seemed like there was a pinch prick. Erin sat opposite her head, checking the data downloaded from the Nagar with her eyebrows so that she could suck her hair. Vic knocked on the end, muttering something in a slight way, trying to unravel more encrypted files. Damn, this ghost place can really kill people. I wrapped my old battle suit on my body, gritted my teeth and whispered, then looked at Irene, "Is there anything useful in the data? We can't just talk about everything we risk our lives, right?" Erin raised her head, her eyes slightly complex, and she slammed her head, "Yes, but incomplete. These documents prove that the energy shield system is actually embedded with an ideology interference module. The military high-level, especially Carlos, will use this technology to control all the armor drivers and turn the Alliance's troops into their private puppets. But the specifics of how to operate, and where the core code is, these key information are encrypted. I need more time, or Professor Ruan's help. Professor Ruan. I said this name again, and I was a little unsure in my heart. This resident old man seemed to know a lot of inside stories, but the depth of the desert of the Iron Curtain Star was not a tourist destination. It was a sandstorm, a clan's nest, and the army's pursuit, so finding him is no different from killing him. But there is no other way to go now, and the secret of Gnaku has failed us to turn back. I gritted my teeth and asked, "Are you sure this boss can help us? Wani and he are the same as the military. Are we not a self-sponsored website?" Aaron slammed his head and said in a low voice, "No." Professor Ruan retreated because of his plan against the army that year, and he was almost attacked by Carlos. He knew more about energy shield technology than anyone else. If anyone could help us crack this system, he would be the only one. "Okay, then look for him." I clicked the head and turned to Vic. "How is your side? Can you position it in a specific position?" Vic grinned and shook the end. "I have unpacked the map chip. Professor Ruan's hiding point is about the northeast of the desert, and it's 2 days away. However, the thunder signal is very weak at that place. It may be a sandstorm interference, or it may be that he sets up a shield himself. We have to be careful, the unmanned aircraft of the army must be flying all over the sky." 2 days. I muttered in a low voice, counting the next plan in my brain. 2 days away. For the ghost place like Iron Curtain Star, it is simply a ground mode. But no matter how difficult it is, you have to leave, otherwise the skull will be dug out by the army sooner or later. I took a deep breath and stood up. "Then don't be too slow. While the sky is still dark, let's move a place first, avoid the search area, and then head straight to the northeast." For the next few hours, we walked carefully in the desert, avoiding the military's patrol unmanned aircraft and ground teams, and hardly dared to stop and take a breath. The sky of the Iron Curtain Star is always gray, and the sand may shave at any time. We can only rely on the end of Vic to navigate and walk forward with our heads. The next evening, we finally approached the area marked on the map, a valley full of devastated by sandstorms, surrounded by sharp rocks and collapsed pits, which looked like a natural maze. "It should be nearby. Look for it, you can't go there in vain." I gritted my teeth and said, although the mechanical limbs on my legs had begun to sound the warning of overloading, it was not a time to rest. We were scattered and searched carefully in the valley, not giving up every rock or every corner. Just as I was about to give up, Vic suddenly shouted in a low voice, "It's a little unfavorable." I ran over and found that he was standing next to a huge rock. The surface of the rock looked no different from the surroundings, but after Vic scanned the end, a faint wave of energy was shown on the screen. He grinned. "There is something underneath, maybe it's a hidden door band system. I'll try to crack it." After a few minutes, a click sound suddenly came from the surface of the rock, and a small area slipped open, revealing a narrow underground passage, which was pitch black inside, and could almost hear a low mechanical rotation. I felt tight in my heart, held the electromagnetic dagger tightly, and said in a low voice, "Be careful, not a trap." 3 fish came in. The air in the passage was damp and cold, and the walls were covered with rotten marks, as if no one had taken care of it for a long time. After walking about 100 meters, an alloy door appeared in the passage, with an ancient Alliance number engraved on it, and an old-fashioned biological identification panel next to it. Vicar tried to crack it, but the end prompted that finger marks or iris data were needed, so there was no way to start. "It seems to be hard." I gritted my teeth and prepared to pry the panel with a dagger, but suddenly a low voice came out after this time, with a little sand. "Who are you? Why are you here?" I was stunned for a moment, and Aaron rushed forward and said in a low voice, "We are here to find Professor Ruan." "I am Aaron, from the Gnaku Interior Department. We have the data of the energy shield and need your help." After the door was silent for a moment, then the voice sounded again, "Gnaku? Humph, it's Carlos's helping bastard again. Do you think I'll believe it? Screw me, otherwise don't blame me for being rude." "Wait." I couldn't help but yell, "We are not from the military. We fell into the Nagar and were almost fucked by Carlos's men just to dig out the truth about the energy shield. If you don't believe it, you can look at the data in our hands, but don't think we are enemies as soon as they come up. After the door was silent again. After a long time, the alloy door finally opened, revealing an old head full of white hair and wearing old-fashioned protective lens. He was wearing a broken experimental dress, holding a modified gun in his hand, his eyes as if he could see through people. My heart skipped a beat. This old man looked difficult to mess with, but at least he didn't do it directly. "I'm Juan," he said coldly, looking at us up and down. "Come on the data and let me see. If there is a little fake, don't even want to leave this one." Aaron tightly uploaded the storage device. Professor Juan picked it up and turned into the laboratory. We followed behind and looked around carefully. Although the place is old, it has complete equipment, with various pictures and data boards hanging on the wall, and an old-fashioned motor armor simulator in the center, which looks like an early testing platform for the energy shield. Professor Juan connected the storage device to an antique level end, and a bunch of data popped up on the screen. He looked at it with his eyebrows for a long time, and his face became increasingly difficult to see. Finally, he patted the table heavily and said in a low voice, "Bastard. Carlos, a guy, has indeed come to this point. Ideological interference module, this was his most crazy plan of the year, but I didn't expect that he would really make it. Professor, do you know the basics of this technology?" Aaron couldn't help asking, "Can we stop it?" Professor Juan snorted coldly and turned to us. "Stop? It's too late. Based on these data, Carlos has activated the final plan. The core system of the energy shield is deployed in the main control center of Nagar, preparing to implant the armor of the entire Alliance army. Once completed, all the drivers will become thoughtless machines and listen to him alone." I felt cold in my heart and gritted my teeth and asked, "What should I do?" "You can't always watch him turn the Alliance into his private empire, right?" Professor Juan was silent for a moment, and his eyes flashed a bit. "There is a way, but the risk is so high that you may regret it. The energy shield system has a back door, which is the protection I left behind that year. You can directly turn off the consciousness module and even destroy the entire system. But the back door can only be activated inside the main control center, and someone needs to drive the driving armor, synchronize with the shield system, and bear the counterattack." Respondents? I browed. "What does it mean?" "It means," Professor Juan said coldly, "after synchronization, the system will try to invade the driver's consciousness as the final defense mechanism. If your will is not firm, it may be controlled by reverse or even brain death." I felt a slump in my heart, but there was not much hesitation in my brain. The revenge of the misunderstanding in the mission that year, the secrets in the Nagar, and the drivers who might be controlled. These things made me feel overwhelmed. If I don't do anything, I won't be able to do anything. I gritted my teeth and said, "I'm here. I've been a driver and I know how to sync with the machine. Tell me what to do." Professor Juan stared at me for a few seconds, and finally pointed, "Okay, boy, there is a kind. Next, I will change a machine armor and implant the back code into its system. You have to go back to the Nagar, enter the main control center, and connect this machine armor to the shield system. As long as you succeed, Carlos' plan will be finished." In the next few days, Professor Juan took us so busy. He renovated an old motor armor in the experiment room, installed a modified energy shield module, and gave me urgent training, teaching me how to resist invasion of consciousness. Vic and Aaron are responsible for developing a dive plan and trying to find the weaknesses of the Gnaku control center. Time is tight, we almost didn't sleep much, and our brains are about to come. On the day of its departure, the sky of the Iron Curtain star cleared for a moment, and a gray cloud layer cracked a piece of silk, revealing a dark red light. I stood in front of the modified machine Thunder No. 2 and held the old hard currency in my hand. My heart was both tight and calm. Professor Juan patted my shoulder and said in a low voice, "Boy, remember, will is the only thing that can save you. Don't let that ghost system control you." I clicked and grinned. "Don't worry, old man, I don't plan to die here." The process of diving into the Nagar was even more shocking than I thought. The army's defense was more serious than before. We were almost discovered several times, but relying on Vic's hacking skills and Irene's internal information, we finally touched near the main control center. This place is the core of the Nagar, and the defense is like an iron barrel, automatic turret and fine guarding are all there. I hid in the armor, looking at the situation outside through the driving screen, my heart beating like a drumbeat. Lin Hao, are you ready? Aaron's voice came from the communication device, shaking with a little bit of trembling. We will attract as much firepower as possible. You have to take advantage of the trouble to get in and connect to the system. It's ready, I said, gritting my teeth, holding the rod tightly. You should be careful, don't let my mother do my work in vain. The next second, Vic activated the interference signal, and the Nagar's warning sound instantly, and the attention of the guard and the turret were distracted. I suddenly started the motor armor, and the second generation of Thunder No. 2 released a low horn. The energy shield opened instantly, and the blue light covered the whole body, resisting the cannon fire and towards the main control center gate. The bullet and energy beam hit the shield, making a harsh sound, but I didn't have time to rush these, so I could only bury my head and rush forward. The door was directly knocked open by me. There was a huge control room inside, a giant server in the center, and a flashing data screen around it. I quickly stopped the machine, jumped out of the driving gear, and rushed to the server, and connected to the backdoor code according to the method taught by Professor Wan. A bunch of warnings popped up on the screen, and the system began to try a picture counterclick. My head suddenly hurt, as if something was diamonding into my brain. Damn it, come! I bit my teeth tightly, holding the pressure, and quickly operating the end with my fingers. The feedback of the idea module became stronger and stronger, and my eyes became blurred, and my ears were filled with strange verbal words, as if I was ordering me to give up. But there was only one thought left in my brain: I can't lose, I can't let that bastard Carlos succeed. Just when I was about to get rid of it, the server suddenly made a sharp sound, and the screen showed the identity module closed successfully. Then the entire system began to collapse, and the core code of the energy shield was deleted in full swing. I sat on the ground, gasping for breath, and the pressure in my brain finally disappeared, but my whole body seemed to be exhausted, and I could even move my fingers freely. At this time, the door of the control room was kicked open, and a group of soldiers in full armed clothes rushed in, and the leader was Carlos's army. He was wearing a black battle suit, full of anger on his face, and raised his gun to me, with a cold voice. Lin Hao, you bastard, you dare to harm me. I grinned and gasped, Carlos, your plan is over. The system collapses, and the consciousness control can no longer be activated. You returned. His face was blue and his fingers were trembling, but at this moment, an explosion came from outside the control room, followed by dense guns and shouts. Aaron's voice came from the communication device, with a little excitement. Lin Hao, the Alliance has rebelled. We have made the data public. After the soldiers knew the truth, they began to resist Carlos's troops. Stop, we will arrive immediately. Carlos was stunned for a moment, turned to look out the window. The Nagar far away was already in chaos, with flames and explosions coming one after another. One of his men fell down, and the rebel soldiers and the army were approaching here. He gritted his teeth and growled, turning around and trying to run, but I gritted my teeth and pulled up, lifted the electromagnetic dagger on the ground, and threw it over with the last bit of force. The dagger hit him in the back, and he snorted, fell down, and his gun fell to the ground. I gasped and leaned against the server, my brain was blank. The door of the control room was pushed open again, and this time came Aaron and Vic, and several rebellious Alliance soldiers. When they saw me, they rushed over to support me. Aaron's voice was crying, Lin Hao, are you okay? Damn, don't scare me. I grinned reluctantly and slammed my hand. I can't die. I'm just a little tired. Carlos, has he solved it? It's a solution. Vic pointed his head, his face full of fatigue but also a little smile. His troops were surrounded by rebels and could not escape. The Alliance's high-level team has intervened, Gnaku's secrets were revealed, and Carlos's tragedy was finally over. I clicked my head, leaned against the wall, closed my eyes and gasped. The sky of the Iron Curtain and star came into my eyes through the broken window of the control room, and it was still so gray, but at this moment, there was a sense of ease in my heart that I couldn't describe. The truth of the energy shield is revealed, the threat of consciousness control is gone, and the future of the Alliance, at least it will not fall into the hands of a bastard like Carlos. A few days later, the battle at Gnaku ended, the rebels controlled the Iron Curtain star, and Carlos was escorted back to the Alliance headquarters for trial. My name has been spread throughout the Star World, and many people call me heroes and say I am the key figure who saved the Alliance. But to be honest, I don't think I'm too big, I just did what I should do. The injury was almost gone. That day, I packed up my things and prepared to leave the Iron Curtain star. Aaron and Vic came to see me off, and Professor Juan showed up rarely, still in his cold look, but there was a little more conviction in his eyes. He gave me a piece of data and said in a low voice, "This is the original design of the energy shield technology. There is no intentional module, only the anti-prevention function. How to use it in the future will be left to your young people to decide." I took the data disk and clicked the head, and I didn't say much. On the head of the Iron Curtain star, the engine of the transport ship sounded low, and the sand was swept up, as if he was saying goodbye to me. I turned around and looked at this deserted planet, and felt a little uncomfortable, but I also knew that my path had not been completed. "Lin Hao, where are you going next?" Erin asked, with a little bit of reluctance in her voice. I grinned and turned the old hard currency in my hand. "I don't know, just find a place. I'll leave the Alliance matter to you." Let's leave first." After saying that, I turned around and stepped onto the transport ship without turning back. The ship door is closing, and the Iron Curtain is getting smaller and smaller in the field, but I know that some things, some people, will always stay in my heart. The Sea of Stars is very big and it will be long in the future. Who knows the next stop, and what will be waiting for me?